Our next speaker traveled around the state with Elisa Simmons, attending countless meetings of the coalition against the TPP, and she's been a real asset to the coalition around the state, and on a lot of conference calls, and done a lot of organizing work. So please welcome Dominique Aulisio.
Thank you. Hi, I hope everyone's doing well. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for kicking us off. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what the TPP is and what it isn't. Right now we are in the 16th round of negotiations in Singapore. The TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, was initiated by President Bush, and President Obama has picked up and continued negotiations with it. They are marketing it to us as a deal that will boost exports and create jobs. They're calling it the most transparent free trade agreement ever, that it will be good for the environment, good for workers, and good for consumers. We know that those are flat out lies. We know that NAFTA caused a loss of 5 million factory jobs in the U.S. and it left us a legacy of environmental destruction and a race to the bottom in terms of wages and workers' rights. And that today corporations constantly relocate factories to exploit an even cheaper labor force with fewer legal protections, fewer freedoms to unionize, and the TPP only further enables this. The NAFTA was also horrible for the Mexican economy. 2.5 million campesinos, farmers, and farm laborers lost their livelihoods due to the drastic changes in the rural economy in Mexico caused by NAFTA. And we are not going to believe that the TPP is a change in tone from this. It is the largest and most secretive trade deal in history. Between the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the proposed Transatlantic Partnership, my analysis is that virtually the entire world will be brought into corporate-driven free trade agreements with the
New
U.S.
World Order.
Right. So we sound like conspiracy theorists when we say New World Order, but they're handing it to us, really. The current participants include the United States, Canada, Mexico, Chile, Peru, Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, Vietnam, Singapore, Brunei, and now Japan is the latest to join on. And the way it's being written, any country in the Pacific Rim will be able to join onto this agreement after it is finalized, as long as they submit to all of its principles. They won't have any opportunity to have a say on what's already been negotiated. Japan, once they join, won't have any say on what has been negotiated thus far. So since the U.S. already has free trade agreements with 6 of the countries I just listed, and the remaining countries have comparatively little buying power, we know that this is not about expanding our markets, expanding exports, and creating jobs. This is about expanding corporate control. So let's talk about the secrecy aspect. The text itself is being negotiated in complete secrecy. Not even Congress has access to the text, even though several hundred corporate advisors do. However, we do know about several provisions in it that are designed to wildly expand privileges for corporations, because 2 of the 29 chapters have been leaked to the public. And we know that this agreement touches, like Lorraine was saying, on vast aspects of public policy that have nothing to do with trade, access to life-saving drugs, internet regulations. And just to list a few of the corporate advisors with access to the text, we have AT&T, Verizon, Cargill, Chevron, Ford, GM, GE, Hewlett-Packard, IBM, and Walmart. And you can see the whole list on sojo.net. The article is called Insider's List, and there's a link there. And there are actually quite a few environmental and nonprofits on the list also that are supposedly trying to make it a better deal. I think that's another conversation, because it's not looking good so far. So one of the most outrageous provisions in it is the investor state dispute resolution system that Lorraine mentioned, where a private tribunal will be created so that multinational corporations can sue sovereign nations if they deem them to be interfering with their current or expected profits. And on this tribunal, 3 judges will rotate between hearing cases and serving as attorneys for the corporations. So everyone always says, what happened to conflict of interest, right? So what does that even mean? So just to give an example, under NAFTA, that set up a similar tribunal. The governments of Canada and Mexico have been forced to pay out $365 million of taxpayer money to corporations for attempting to enforce their own legislation that is in place to protect human rights and the environment. In 1997, for example, the corporation Metalclad asked Mexico for a permit to build a toxic waste plant. Mexico said, no, not until you clean up toxic waste from an existing facility. They refused and sued the government of Mexico. The tribunal ruled in the corporation's favor, and Mexico paid $15.6 million. And there are 13 billion lawsuits pending under NAFTA and the U.S. Peru FTA. $13 billion in similar lawsuits pending right now. And there's plenty of precedent to rule in favor of the corporation. So I'm sorry I'm talking so fast. It's a lot of information though. Yeah, sure. So one of the scariest aspects is that this investor state tribunal will trump all domestic law, and it will undoubtedly have a chilling effect on the enforcement and enactment of new regulatory laws. So the laws that we fight to protect people, protect the environment, are going to be rendered toothless by this. Terry is going to speak about the environmental impacts of it, so I'm not going to go into that too much. We just know that it's going to increase extractive industries. It'll make it a lot easier for mining corporations to rip out products from the earth without, paying their fines or facing any regulatory law. It's going to impact food safety, agricultural industry standards, import standards. Many people are worried that it will ban GMO labeling and other food labeling. It's going to affect internet access. This is an area where the Obama administration is taking a domestic law that they could not get passed and putting it through in this secretive trade agreement through the back door. Who here remembers the Stop Online Piracy Act? So fun. So there was a huge campaign against that. It failed in Congress, and now elements of it are included in the TPP. So those include provisions to require policing of internet users by internet service providers, a crackdown on illegal downloads that would fine individuals the same as corporations, and a ban of open source software like Linux. Big Pharma also has their hands in this deal. Big Pharma has included provisions to extend the lifespan of name brand patents, delaying the release of generics. And activists in Malaysia are up in arms over this because HIV/AIDS activists know that people will not be able to purchase their life-saving drugs if the generic is not available there. So it's a crucial human rights and public health issue. It's really a life and death issue. Big Pharma also has a provision to renegotiate the pricing on drug formularies, like Medicare and Medicaid in this country. We all either depend on stable drug prices or have a loved one who depends on them. Many who are on a fixed income, if their drug pricing goes up, they won't be able to afford it. By local and by American, offshoring, deregulating the financial services sector. This policy is very comprehensive. So what is the administration's plan? Obama announced last fall that he wants this deal done by October of this year, ahead of the APEC negotiations in October. The last round of negotiations is slated for September. There will be a round in May and July, and one in September, most likely. And he is going to use the Presidential Trade Authority to get this bill rammed through Congress. So the Presidential Trade Authority would mean a rubber stamp on the bill without ever releasing the text to Congress or to the public. this is a provision that was created during the Nixon administration to basically take the legislature out of the trade negotiation process. And Congress will have to vote to allow the president to use the Presidential Trade Authority, or fast track. And then if they give him that power, they will later be handed a bill with the TPP, the final bill. They will have 90 days or less to vote yes or no on it. They will never see the text. And most free trade agreements that have been passed in the past decade have been passed with the fast track or presidential trade authority system. And all of the trade bills that have been proposed in the past decade have been passed. So it's not looking good. And if we're going to stop this agreement, we have to stop it at fast track. So this is our little window of opportunity. This is our responsibility right now to get on the phones to our Congress members, get in their offices, write letters to the editor to get this into the public eye and make it politically costly for our representatives. That's my story. All right, thank you so much. And if you want more information, we have tons of resources back there and can email you.
What was that website, sojo.com, you said?
SOJO.net.
.net.
sojo.net?
Yes.
I can email you for basically some summary of what you said.
Yes, I saw that.